Hi, welcome to another edition of Education Matters. I'm Ray Penny. I'll be your host for this. It's a podcast where we discuss education issues that are important to school board members and school administrators through the course of the year. With me today is Maren Smagala from, she's the Chief Communications Officer for Hunterdon Central Regional High School, obviously in Hunterdon County.
Yep.
She's also president of the New Jersey School Public Relations Association. So
Yes.
I'm very happy to have Maren with me today. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat room and they'll be sent on to me so that we can pass them on to Maren. Maren, school communications has always been important, but I think since the pandemic, it became even more important.
Absolutely.
Because there were a lot of issues that you have to get across, and it's not like it was even like 6 years ago. So I know it's been important to you. Just explain your role as a communications professional in the school district, and then we'll get into what you think are some of the important things.
Sure, absolutely. So I've been doing school communications for 17 years. I think it's definitely changed since the pandemic. And I think the pandemic really showed schools whether or not they were good communicators, right? So it showed them if they had a good plan in place, if they were communicating effectively to all of their stakeholders. And I think the one area, I think schools may have maybe struggled a little bit with like how to get to the non-English speaking families and how to get the meal information out or transportation or whatever it may have been. So hopefully within the last 4 years, school districts have really sat down and looked at their plan, came up with a plan if they did not have one, made sure they knew who was communicating for their district, and obviously how to reach all of those really important stakeholders throughout the year.
Okay, you touched on a little bit, particularly having a plan.
Yeah.
What's your basic philosophy on being an effective communicator, as a district being effective communicating to their community?
Yeah, absolutely. So as the communications officer for Hunterdon Central, I do, I send out most of the communications for the district along with the principal. I think, my philosophy is just consistently communication throughout the school year is key. It's not just communicating when you're in a crisis. You want to have that good news that's getting out. You want your publics to feel really excited about your schools. They're a huge piece of your community. So I think just that effective, consistent communication is key, making sure, like I said, you're reaching all of your stakeholders. Are you translating? Translation tools have come a long way in the last, even 5 years. So making sure that you're reaching them in their home language. And also internal communications. A lot of our plans or what we think of parents, we think of students, but you think your teachers are in the know, but they may not be. So you want to make sure that you're also looking at your internal communications and are you sharing information with staff? Are you updating them on your goals for the year? Don't forget that really important, stakeholder group for sure. And just making sure that your communications also are being received. So I always say annually evaluate your tools. Is social media reaching the people you want it to reach? Your website, your email system, your notification system. If they're not doing the job you want, there's plenty of tools out there. So, definitely shop around if it's not giving you the outcome that you're looking for.
You bring up a lot of good points there because you have different audiences.
Yes.
You have your students, you have your staff, you have your parents, but then you have the general community and maybe your municipal body.
Right.
But you also have different platforms. You have social media, you have your website.
Yep.
I guess every once in a while we use paper product.
Yes. Mailings.
So let's look at it. Let's look at website and social media.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay. How do you use, because you might put different information on one as opposed to the other.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this is where you really should sit down and plan what you want to put on what type of tool. So our website, I always look at as a really great landing page. So if, someone's looking to apply for a job at your school or a family's moving into the district, making sure that your website is clean, it's easy to navigate, it's updated, and that really is kind of where you can store the majority of information about your district. And also all the good news, put that on your news section. You could have your social media feed into your website. Your website's really your first impression of your district. So I always say, get those old photos of students who've graduated long ago. Like they should not be on your website right now, right? You want to make your pictures consistent and updated. You want to put your most current news on there. Just keep it fresh. A lot of people, the website becomes static. And you really want to make sure it's being refreshed on a regular basis. So I put our press releases on our website. I make sure our calendar is updated. That's a huge thing that people go to on a website. But then social media, that's where people are most of the time, right? It's in your hand, it's on your smartphone. So I'll put, news on there as well, but, upcoming events or reminders, maybe they didn't check their email. Social media is a great quick way to get out that, either breaking news or just something you want kind of be more in their face than maybe in their email. So I think you have to, again, it's all about planning. What are you looking to do? What kind of communications are you looking to get out, and what tools would best get to the right people? So I try to do a communication survey at least every 2-3 years. How are we doing with our communications? Where are people? Are they on Facebook or Instagram or X or whatever? Do they like your newsletter? Maybe you have one, maybe you don't. How do they like your website? Are they going to? So I think just getting a hold on what people think of your communications kind of gives you a good starting point, or at least that you can, change things if needed.
So just want to follow up on
Yeah.
that, because the different platforms probably have different audiences too.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
Parents might be more on the social media end.
Yeah, they're more Facebook, while kids I've grabbed on Instagram more so than anything, and you have to gauge that, to your point, and try to figure out where people are. Absolutely.
And I would also suppose that if something's a little touchy, maybe even controversial, that's probably not a place to put it on social media. It might be
Correct.
more on the website.
Yeah. Or just an
Or-
email from the principal, maybe, or superintendent, to your families directly, and not putting it kind of out there for the world either.
Along that line, a lot of boards, your social media site is not the only social media site in the community.
No.
And so, and I know some board members and some parents will see something on another, say another community social media platform, and,
Right.
and it's not really quite the complete story. I'm being diplomatic on that.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Yes,
So,
very much so.
So how does a district deal with that when it's, do you go in and say, look, this is completely wrong? I'm Marin from,
Yeah.
Or do you put something out on your website, or do a communication to your parents, or whatever the community is?
Yeah, I think I've always looked at it as pick your battles. So it depends on what the misinformation is. So I've always looked at social media where I will not get into a back and forth with someone just posting their opinions. You're never going to win that battle, right? But if you're seeing something that's a flat out lie, I will definitely take it upon myself to go on and actually post the correct information. I also follow, and I've joined our community Facebook pages within the districts or the municipalities within my regional high school district. So if there's something that pops up, I can quickly get on there and, change that information, give them the truth. And it's funny because as parents have gotten to know me over the years, especially at my other district, they used to tag me because they knew I was in the group, and they'd be like, Marin, I don't think this is quite right. Can you answer this? Which was kind of funny, but I like that they have that trust that, I will go on and I will post the correct information. But if it's a really sensitive topic, this is where you need to have a communications team. Like, I always touch base with my superintendent, my principal. I'm a much smaller district. I know we have some really large districts in New Jersey. So I think you should definitely be picking someone, at the district level, have a communications team that you can touch base with. They know I'll go on if it's just simple as it's the wrong time for an event. I'll go on and just, correct that myself. But if it's a sensitive topic, I do obviously talk to our district leadership team before I go and try to correct that on social media.
That's kind of a reactive thing. I want to get to two things. You mentioned it before, a communication plan and kind of a communications team.
Yeah.
It's not all on you. So let's go to the plan. Who should be part of that plan?
So when I've done communication plans in the past, I've definitely involved the superintendent, principals of your schools. I only have one high school. I guess I'm kind of lucky that way. But if you have a larger district, whoever you kind of designated as the spokesperson for your district should be involved in your communications planning. You want to establish the goals for your communication. You want to establish who are you trying to reach, who are your intended audiences. And then, those actions, like what actions are you going to take to reach, those people to achieve your goals. And it could just be a general communication plan for the year. I want to streamline our communications to our families, or I want to increase what we're giving to our staff members and making sure they're in the know. But then you could also have a sub-plan for a bond referendum that you might be coming up this year. You want to have a communications plan for that campaign. So, it can kind of take on extra legs, off of like a main plan. And again, just making sure that you're addressing all of your audiences. I know translation is always a big piece that people may forget about, but it's really important. And yeah, you just have to kind of sit down and kind of, think about how do we want to communicate? What are we going to communicate? Who's the need to go to? And don't forget that important crisis communication piece of it. That should be a piece of your plan for sure. Because if something pops up, you want to make sure that you can quickly turn, get
Everyone
your team
knows their role
together.
right
Everybody
off the
knows their role. Absolutely. And especially as we get new administrators on board, you should be reviewing that plan all the time. Get those new administrators up and running. So if something happens tomorrow, like you're ready to go. And I mean, let's face it, we've had, I've seen a lot of social media threats that are closing schools recently. Something could happen at any time. So you want to make sure that you're ready and at least everybody knows their roles so you can quickly jump into action for that.
Now, who can, I know it varies from district to district. Do you allow teachers or principals to post fun stuff on the social media site, like scenes from the football game, the play, as long as everyone has releases? But,
of course, photo consent.
But you know what I'm saying is,
Yes.
Can they do the, look what we're doing in this AP science class?
Yeah. So my advice is if you've established social media accounts for, either it's an individual school or the district as a whole, there really should be one administrator that's posting that information. I think, I'm always asking my teachers, funnel stuff and information to me. I'll post it. It's great. I pop into classrooms on my own. I'll, post those pictures. But yeah, I think it's better when it's only one administrator because then it doesn't get a little too chaotic with other people posting. And I look at that too. The information that's going to, like, let's say your families, that should really be coming from one or maybe two people. It shouldn't be coming from multiple, because not everybody's going to know everybody in your district, right? So you want to have that trustworthy source that they know it's coming from Marin Smagala or it's coming from the principal, and just kind of funneling it into one or two people. And then it doesn't get as chaotic and parents know that, yep, this is the person I trust. This is the person I know, I'm going to read that email.
You're a communications professional, but some districts are small, smaller than yours.
Yep.
But they probably have to give someone double duty, and we'll get into your double duty and another communication professional's double duty.
Yes.
But, so how should they look at this? Because I know they can actually even join your association.
Yep, absolutely. I think you really need to look at your strengths of your support staff. I would love that every school district would have a designated communications person like myself. I know that's not always possible with budgets, especially for smaller districts. So I think just leveraging the skills of your existing staff. We have IT people that have joined my professional association. They do the website or they may do social media. So I think you just have to really look at your staff and what are their strengths. And I think you could probably find, different people to do pieces of your communication plan.
Yeah. And I know most of your members do have double duty. There's an IT person.
Yes.
And so I'm going to get it because there's a question in there about that, because to actually do the accountability regs website is not part of that. But here, this is from Rachel. Is your sole responsibility the communications officer? Do you have any insight on how your district came to recognize the need and implement the role of the communication officer?
Yes. Hi, Rachel. So we get this question a lot. As the president of New Jersey School PR Association, everybody goes, how do you have a designated position? So if you look really thoroughly through the fiscal accountability regulations, you absolutely can have a communications position. That position has to do obviously more than just public relations. And that's the caveat that we always want to be careful. So I take on not only public relations and media relations with reporter questions, I also do the website, social media. And like you said, you can break it up if you really don't have the budget for that. But it's an important role. And I know my current district recognized that over 10 years ago. I just came from a previous district. I was there for 17 years. So the superintendent who hired me originally 17 years ago, he just saw it was a huge gap that they were not communicating effectively with their stakeholders, especially community, their parents, their staff. So they were great to think that, yep, I think this position is worth having. They were able to find it in the budget. And like I said, my current district, they've had it for over 10 years. And I'm very grateful that they've recognized the importance of it. So, but if you ever need to get any advice of how to add a position, I'm happy to reach out to me and I'll be happy to help you.
You can email me and I'll pass it on to Marin.
Yeah. It's also president@njspro.com. It's very easy.
So, also to follow that up, it's a lot of work for a superintendent to be a professional on the communication, even though
absolutely,
they have a lot on their plate.
Yep.
Even in a small district, they have a lot on their plate, and actually, I don't think they take any courses on the communication to get their certification.
No, it might be in the new Leadership Academy
Yeah,
right now
might
with NJASA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, they have to learn it, but
Correct.
it is good to have someone out there. And to me,
Mhm.
communications is so important for a school
Absolutely.
district to get their message out
Mhm.
proactively
Mhm.
and on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which gets me to some of the, what do you see as some of the common mistakes? Because you do work with a lot of school districts because you
Yeah.
guys meet on a regular basis.
Mhm. I think the lack of planning, communication sometimes takes a back seat. I've seen a lack of planning, which again, I think schools probably recognized after the pandemic that they needed to fix some things. I also see the static websites; they're not updated. They're pretty out of date. And I think also, when you're going to have social media, you need to post 3 to 4 times a week. Like it can't just be like, oh, hey, we have social media, we post once, and then you don't see us for a week or two. That's crazy. But yeah, I think just having your team on board, having a plan in place. I think the biggest mistakes are just it's not talked about enough. During the year, and it's a huge piece, and that's the most public piece.
Yeah.
Sometimes that you have.
Do you try to encourage it? Because maybe you don't know that there's this great event going on in the school. I mean, I'm sure you try to keep up on all of them, but every once in a while,
Yeah,
something
it's hard
so
if you have a
that-
large district.
so that
Absolutely.
some, the staff should know. Look, we should get
Mhm.
some public, someone should know about this.
Yes. Yeah.
So, do you encourage the teachers if they have a great field trip, if they have a great lesson going on,
Absolutely.
especially one that's kind of visual?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm thrilled in my new position. I have I oversee the TV studio and radio station, so I'm always looking for content for videos. But yeah, I think you have to designate someone, in that school or in the district that you're going to funnel information to, and make yourself known. Like luckily my superintendent asked me to give a presentation at In Service, the first staff in service, so I got to be introduced to the entire staff right from the get-go, and I was like, send me your stuff. I want to know the news. I want to know what's going on, and happy to share it out. And it's been a huge positive impact when your teachers feel like, oh, I can share with somebody, this is great. And they love when you visit their classroom. So I think the more that you can do that, the better.
And you probably like to use a lot of pictures,
Yes.
and videos.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I think they're a little bit more powerful.
Yes.
You mentioned before, we'll go to shift a little bit here.
Yeah.
Not crisis communication, but things go wrong. It's not if something will go wrong. Something always goes wrong.
All the time.
So
I wish we could just do education. That would be amazing.
But you have to always handle things that
Mhm.
go wrong. And sometimes it may not seem as big to you or the school district, but it might be big to the community.
Yeah.
What are some basic tenets? And I know you said have a plan already in
Mhm.
place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I definitely have, sometimes our board members tell us about something going on in the community. They're the best ones to kind of funnel news up that we may not know about that's happening. And I think just having conversations, with your superintendent, with the principal, or, with your board, what exactly is out there, what can we do to fix it? Maybe put out more information. And yeah, I mean, you just have to be able to turn on a dime and just answer those questions and try to, put out as much information to the public as you can. I mean, I had a social media thread a few weeks ago, and it was like, everything stops, you get your team, we got a message out, no problem. And, we were lucky, it wasn't a real threat, which was, we're very lucky to do that. But yeah, I just think the more conversations you can have, the better. And you have to have a strong leadership team and strong relationships. That's huge. You want to be able to trust the team that you work with. And I'm very lucky to have that at Hunter and Central.
Yeah. And who's the spokesperson for a district? Usually it's the superintendent, and the board
Yeah.
should probably only have one as well.
Yes,
depending on
usually the
issue.
board president. Yeah,
Yeah.
superintendent. I will make comments to the media if my superintendent approves me to. But yeah, it really should only be one or two people in a district. You shouldn't have everybody talking to the media whenever they want. And that's just something you have to, remind people of policy, and just, kind of remind your staff, like, this is kind of how that funnels up, the superintendent.
Well, tell us a little bit about New Jersey School Public Relations Association.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was very excited.
Because
yeah.
I mean, and I'll put a little plug in for if you are one of those small districts and you're the principal who does it for the superintendent when you have spare time. I think you have a place for everyone.
We do. We absolutely do. So we are a state chapter of the National School Public Relations Association. We hold professional development workshops that are specifically on school communication. So if you have any piece in your district that you handle communications in any way, we'd love to have you at our workshops. Your membership includes the 3 full-day workshops. You get 2 free entries to our communication awards, which we're happy to hand out actually this Thursday. You get part of our Google group, which is used highly all year long for advice, suggestions, template letters. We're a very tight-knit group. We love to share, our experiences with everybody. Like, we have some veterans that have been doing this for more than me, like 20 years, and we have some newbies, and we're happy to share, and we're a great network. So and you can check out our booth. We're actually going to be at New Jersey School Boards Association workshop in a couple weeks. So stop by the NJSPR booth. We'd love to talk to you.
I'm going to add one more benefit that I heard from one. If you have an issue that maybe it is a crisis, and you're like, what have you guys done? And you can put it out there, and there's probably a good chance that someone throughout New Jersey has experienced that, or something pretty similar, and can give you some good advice. So you're not doing some of these crisis communications on your own.
Correct. Yep. We have like I said, we have a great network. If you know a school district that has a communications professional on staff, don't be afraid to reach out, because we've helped each other. We've helped others in our region. We get calls to just be like, I'm going crazy. What's happening? Can you help me? And even if we're just there as a sounding board to make sure that you feel like you're doing the right thing, give us a call. Like, we're a very tight knit group, and we have great networking through our membership.
Okay. Any other piece of advice you would give to a school district, a board of ed, or a superintendent that we haven't touched on that I can think of?
Not that I can think of. It's just really having those conversations, and also having a conversation, like you said, like, your board president, typically through policy, they're going to speak on behalf of the board. If board members have concerns, they should be funneling up to the superintendent. So superintendent is usually the spokesperson for the district as a whole. So I think just having those procedures in place, and how you're going to funnel information, or maybe it's the misinformation, who are you going to give that to, so that we can address it, as the district, and get that corrected as soon as possible. So I would just love districts to really focus on communication. And if you can get a professional physician like myself, that would be great too. Yeah.
Okay. That brings us to the end of this.
Thank you.
interview.
This was great.
This was a lot of fun. I think you have some great pieces of advice there.
Thank you.
And I will recommend, if you have someone in your district that has to do the communication, it is a good group to join. We join as NJSBA just because we get, we're all learning, particularly now, I think, because with AI, social media, and the website's actually very old now, but it's changing so fast in the world that you really have to depend on other people to go.
And we have some of our membership is presenting at workshop in a couple of weeks on school communication, various topics. So definitely take a look through the app and your workshop booklet and join those.
Well, Baron, I'd like to thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. It was great to be with you.
And I hope you enjoyed this Education Matters and got some tips out of it.